And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by the First Noel, who writes, I watched Mortal Kombat this weekend. It was an awful movie, but I loved it. I loved it enough I want to see a sequel, maybe with a different writer and editor. I did some research and learned, according to ScreenRant, that Joe Talsim, Sub-Zero, and Bihan signed a 5-movie contract with Warner Brothers. Mortal Kombat made just over $50 million as of Sunday evening. Does this box office justify a sequel? Thanks, and keep bringing the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And, first things first. The contracts that actors sign are completely meaningless. Don't read anything into that. When an actor signs a contract like a 4-film deal or a 5-film deal, that does not mean that 4 or 5 films are going to be made. As a matter of fact, they may never make those films. All it means is that if the studio decides to make those films, the actor is then obligated to appear in them. But it doesn't mean the studio has to make them. So just put that to rest there for a second. As far as Mortal Kombat goes, I very excitedly on Friday, Rob, I went to an AMC dine-in theater.
How was that?
It was great. It was a lot of fun. So me, Ann, her brother Ray, our buddy Ryan, the 4 of us, we went up to Ontario, California, went to the AMC theater there, watched it. Look, Mortal Kombat is a dreadfully awful movie. It is some of the worst editing I've ever seen. Some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard, some of the cringiest story they've tried to do. At the end of the day, it was fun. Like, I certainly loved watching the fatalities and, when Goro, no big spoiler there, he's in the trailers. When Goro shows up, it's like, ah, and all this kind of thing. And some of the effects were cool and the fights were fun. But, I mean, it's one of those movies, Robs, that makes me lament. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't you do like Lord of the Rings? That is, I mean, not every movie can be Lord of the Rings, but why not make a movie that has great story and great dialogue and great editing and is fun and exciting? And why not do both? So I had fun. I'm definitely going to go watch it again, if for nothing else other than the fun moments, but it is truly a terrible movie on many, many other levels, even though I had fun with it. At any rate, yeah, the movie has already made $50 million. It made close to $23 million on its opening weekend, which quite frankly, I'm not sure this movie would have done any better had COVID not been around. So there was that. So it did very well for itself. Its worldwide total after a first weekend, Rob, has basically now already equaled its production budget. It had a very low production budget. I believe it's around $53 to $55 million was the production budget. They still have a ways to go to break even. I mean, they're going to have to get to probably about 90 to break even. But understanding that this is also an HBO Max release, there's other things that kind of temper what the expectations should be. But overall, a very promising performance for it. What is it going to take for Mortal Kombat to get a sequel greenlit? Well, definitely a better movie. They definitely need to come to them with a pitch for a much better movie than the one we had here. Because any 7-year-old can walk in the studio and say, what if Jax takes his metal arms and smacks a guy's head and makes his head explode? That doesn't take an Academy level, writer to come up with that. But whatever, it's going to take a better concept, better writing. Rob, look, one of the things I was a little bit apprehensive about going into Mortal Kombat was that it was a first-time director and a first-time screenwriter. And it shows. It really does show. And it shows that I have the maturity level of a 6-year-old, the fact that I still had fun with it regardless. But that being said, what does it need to do? Honestly, I think from a financial point of view, it may have already done what it needs to do to make Warner Brothers look at the possibility of a sequel. Coming out, still in the midst of a pandemic, still with limited theater capacity and stuff like that, making $23 million at the box office, quite frankly, is better than I thought it would do.
Yeah, man.
And it shows that there's interest, and it's made $50 million worldwide. We'll see how much it makes over the coming weeks. But from a financial point of view, it's done what it needs to do. It was also badly done in many ways too. So they need to get a new director. That's for sure. And they need to get a new writer. If they're going to do a sequel, they have to get a new writer and they have to get a new director. And by God, they have to get a new editor. at the same ways. I think this is some of the worst editing in an action film I've ever seen. Like every third of a second, cut, shaky cam, cut. And it's like, come on, guys, just settle down. At any rate, but I think they're on their way financially to getting that green light for a sequel. Rob, I don't know. You and I have not talked about this. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch Mortal Kombat yet. You hear about the results it's had at the box office already. What do you think are its chances and its prospects right now for a sequel?
Well, like you said, I mean, I think it was probably economical, didn't cost a lot of money. And I think they're surprised by this theatrical response, and we'll see how it does. But I think that this is the kind of movie that it wouldn't surprise me if we're going to see Mortal Kombat 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, to be honest. Why stop making them? I mean, if you keep the budget down, and these are new filmmakers. So it's like, why not make it an incubator and allow new filmmakers to come in and make new sequels? I see that. Look, the Mortal Kombat mythology is pretty deep, and I think there's a lot to be mined there, and they could do a lot of interesting things. And if there's a continued interest, and they can keep these budgets down to not being, I mean, when I say not expensive, $40-50 million or something, maybe that would be worthwhile.
If you're a studio executive, let me ask you this. If you're a studio executive, and how do you measure out, how do you balance out the financial return, but also the audience and critic response, understanding that may have an impact on how much it makes later? Do you keep a Mortal Kombat budget to 50 or sub 50? Do you reduce the budget to 40 or 30 if you do a sequel? Do you do a sequel at all? How would you balance that out when it comes to a property like Mortal Kombat?
I think, look, you have to keep it. You have to keep it. One of the appeals of that franchise moving forward is that it's economical, and there's no reason to escalate the budget to make a $180 million Mortal Kombat movie. Unless, I guess, it's gonna be the Avengers Endgame of the Mortal Kombat universe. No, I mean, I think the appeal of it is that it's a successful franchise. People will follow, and you keep it economical. You keep the price down, and that's what makes it appealing to keep making them. And I think that's the key. And there's no reason. Look, that's what you allow filmmakers. Maybe it's an incubator for these new filmmakers, and you see how they can work. I mean, obviously they're effects heavy, they're action heavy, they're not easy to make. But it requires ingenuity on the part of, and hopefully maybe the next James Cameron will come out of making a Mortal Kombat movie.
Well, it won't be from this one. It won't be from this one. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Deadline who write about this. All of this is a great sign that the world is opening up again as the pandemic eases and vaccinations go up. While we have tapped Warner Brothers on the chin for their atrocious theatrical and HBO Max day and date strategy, and yeah, they deserve to get smacked in the mouth for that, which will catch up with itself eventually. We would not know what these box office results were possible if it wasn't for Warner Brothers. Really, theaters wouldn't be open if it wasn't for Warner Brothers. This is true. And Universal. And sincerely, that goes all the way back to last August's Tenet. So not only is Mortal Kombat kind of a win with its own individual box office, it's a sign the box office is returning, for all the crap that Warner Brothers has taken for their utterly ridiculous, stupid move. The fact of the matter is, too, what have we had in theaters, Rob? We had Tenet, we've had Godzilla vs. Kong, we've had Mortal Kombat, and these all have been thanks to Warner Brothers. And so if we're going to dock them for the stupid things they did, we also got to give them props for that, because I think Deadline is right. The theaters wouldn't even be open right now if it weren't for Warner Brothers putting these movies out. I don't think they'd even be out there right now. So that was an interesting point of view, too. Question is for you guys. What do you think about the results of Mortal Kombat? Do you think they should do a sequel looking at the financials right now? And who knows how the financials are going to develop over the next couple of weeks? What are your guys' thoughts? Jump down into the comments section below and leave your input there. All right, guys.